It all began with a simple request. I was in my kitchen, cleaning up after dinner, when my phone vibrated. Seeing the name on the screen made me pause. It was Ryan, my best friend Lisa's younger brother. I hadn't seen him in years, not since he was a tall, awkward teenager trailing us around when we were in college. The last I'd heard about him, he was in his senior year of high school, and now, apparently, he was 18. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and answered, curious. Hey, Ryan, this is a surprise. Hey, Sophie, he said, his voice deeper than I remembered. I hope this isn't weird, but I really need a favor. I smiled. Depends on the favor. He hesitated, then sighed. Can I come over? I don't want to do this over the phone. A flash of concern passed through me. Are you okay? Yeah, I promise. I just need to talk. His voice was nervous, almost embarrassed. I glanced at the clock. It was only 7:30 p.m. With a soft sigh, I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. All right, come on over. I had barely set my phone down when my mind started to race. I hadn't thought about Ryan in years. To me, he had always been Lisa's little brother, the one who hung around the house, eavesdropping on our conversations, trying a little too hard to be cool. But now I realized he wasn't a kid anymore. By the time the doorbell rang, I felt unexpectedly nervous. Shaking off the feeling, I smoothed my sweater and opened the door. Ryan stood there, tall and lean, his broad shoulders filling the doorway. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and his jaw was sharper than I remembered. But it was his eyes warm, uncertain, searching that made me hesitate. Hey, I said, stepping aside. Hey, he echoed, walking past me. He smelled faintly of cologne and something else, something familiar and undeniably mature. Want something to drink? I asked, trying to ignore the strange tension in the air. Nah, I'm good. He ran a hand through his hair. Thanks for letting me come over. I leaned against the counter, folding my arms. So what's this about? He exhaled slowly. I need your help with something. It's kind of awkward. I raised an eyebrow, waiting. Ryan hesitated, his fingers tapping against his jeans. I need a woman's perspective. Someone I trust. My curiosity deepened. His eyes flicked up to mine, filled with both determination and hesitation. I've never been with anyone before, and I don't want my first time to be some random, meaningless thing. The words hung in the air like static electricity. My breath caught, and my heart stumbled in my chest. Ryan, I said, my voice softer now, careful. I know it's crazy, he rushed on, his ears reddening. I trust you. You're the only person I could ask. I blinked, trying to process what he was saying. He wasn't joking. There was no laughter in his eyes, no smug arrogance, just raw sincerity. An earnestness from someone standing at the edge of something new. A strange, unexpected warmth spread through me. It wasn't just the request itself, but the way he looked at me, the quiet respect in his expression. I took a slow breath. Ryan, that's a big thing to ask? I know, he said quickly, and I don't expect anything. He trailed off, rubbing the back of his neck. I just wanted to ask. For a long moment, we stood in silence. The air between us felt thick, charged with something neither of us fully understood. Yet beneath it all, there was something undeniable, a shift, a possibility. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something stir inside me. I sat down, pressing my palms against my knees, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions inside me. Ryan was still standing, shifting his weight, his hands tucked into the pockets of his jeans. He looked at me expectantly, but there was no pressure in his expression, only sincerity. I let out a slow breath. How did I get here? Ryan stepped forward. That's why I came to you. I don't want it to be meaningless, he said. I want to feel comfortable, safe. That word caught me off guard, safe. He trusted me not just with his request, but with something deeper, his vulnerability. I ran a hand through my hair, buying myself some time. What was I supposed to say? He was so young, just stepping into adulthood, while I had already lived through so much. Yet, sitting here, I didn't feel like the 50-year-old woman I was supposed to be. There was something about Ryan, the way he looked at me, the quiet intensity in his eyes, that made me forget the years between us. Ryan, I said again, my voice softer. You could be with someone your age, someone who's also figuring things out. His jaw tightened. I don't want that. Why? I asked. Because I don't want to stumble through it, he admitted. I don't want it to be awkward, rushed, or careless. I want something real. His eyes searched mine. You always felt real to me, Sophie. Even when I was younger, I could tell you were different. You weren't like Lisa's other friends. You actually listened when I talked. You never brushed me off. I swallowed. I hadn't realized he noticed those things. I didn't want to be a mistake for you, Ryan, I whispered. He let out a breath and took a slow step closer. The way he said it made my stomach flip. This wasn't just a passing curiosity for him. This wasn't about some impulsive choice. He was looking at me with purpose, with a kind of respect I rarely saw even from men my own age. I turned away, my mind spinning. I should have said no. I should have stood up, told him this wasn't possible, and sent him out the door. But I didn't, because deep down, I realized I wanted this too. A forgotten part of me, not just a friend or ex-wife, but a woman who still longed to be noticed, to be wanted. And in Ryan's gaze, I saw something I hadn't seen in years: admiration, desire, a quiet reverence. I swallowed hard. Ryan, this is going to change everything between us, I said. I know, he answered without hesitation. And I'm okay with that. I let out a nervous laugh. You're awfully confident for someone with no experience. He flashed a slow, crooked grin, sending a warmth through me I hadn't expected. Maybe, but I know what I want. The room seemed to shrink, the air growing thicker. My heart rate quickened as Ryan moved closer, enough that I could see the tension in his jaw, the slight twitch of his fingers as if he wanted to reach for me but was holding back. I could stop this, I could say no, and pretend none of this ever happened. Or I could face what I already knew deep inside: I wanted this too. Not just because of him, but because it had been so long since anyone had looked at me like this. Since I had felt something stir inside me that wasn't just routine or loneliness. As I met his gaze, I knew I had already made my decision. Slowly, carefully, I reached out and brushed my fingers over his hand. His breath caught, his body tensing at the light touch. He was waiting for me to decide. And I had. I looked up at him, my voice barely a whisper. Are you sure about this? Ryan nodded, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed. More than anything, I let my finger slide over his palm, our hands intertwining. Then I pulled him toward me. Ryan's fingers tightened around mine, his warmth flooding into my skin as we stood there, caught in the fragile space between hesitation and surrender. 1,000 thoughts rushed through my mind. Questions, warnings, reasons to pull away. But none of them felt as real as the steady rise and fall of his breath, the quiet anticipation in his gaze. For so much of my life, I had put others first, being the responsible friend, the supportive ex-wife, the woman who always thought things through. But tonight wasn't about logic. It wasn't about the past or the future. It was about this moment. About the way Ryan looked at me like I was someone worth wanting, not just someone who had lived too many years to be desired. I reached up, my fingertips brushing his cheek. His skin was warm, smooth, untouched by time in a way that made me hyper-aware of my own fine lines. But when he leaned into my touch, closing his eyes for just a second, I realized none of that mattered. I had spent so much time thinking my best years were behind me that passion, desire, and being seen were things I'd only look back on with nostalgia. But here, in the stillness of my living room, with Ryan standing so close, something awakened inside me. I wanted this. A shaky breath escaped my lips as I whispered, Are you sure? Ryan nodded, his voice steady. Yes, that was all I needed. I closed the gap between us, pressing my lips to his in a slow, tentative kiss. Ryan tensed for a moment before melting into it. His hands found my waist, unsure but eager. The kiss started off soft and delicate, but soon his fingers tightened around my hips, and something shifted. There was an urgency beneath his hesitance, a hunger wrapped in restraint. And God, when was the last time someone had kissed me like that? With reverence, with a kind of quiet awe that made my chest ache. We pulled apart, breathless, eyes searching each other's faces. Did I do that right? He asked, a small nervous chuckle escaping his lips. I smiled, my thumb gently grazing his jaw. Perfectly. Ryan exhaled, his grip on my waist relaxing. Sophie, I don't want this to be a mistake for you. I swallowed, holding his gaze. It's not, I said, and I meant it. Because no matter where this went, no matter what tomorrow brought, tonight was ours. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to feel, and I wouldn't regret it. The morning light slipped through the curtains, soft and golden, casting a hazy glow over the room. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring out the window, lost in thought. Ryan had already gone, leaving quietly with a lingering glance that said more than words could. I expected regret to creep in. I braced myself for guilt, for self-reproach, but all I felt was peace. Last night hadn't been a mistake. It hadn't been reckless or foolish. It had been two people choosing each other for a moment that would always be ours. I didn't know what came next, and for the first time in my life, that was okay. Because sometimes life wasn't about planning. Sometimes it was about letting yourself be alive. And last night, for the first time in a long time, I had been truly, beautifully alive.